50 immigrants to be quarantined at MEPS. New COVID-19 cluster detected at KL construction site. Good afternoon, I'm Renee Fong and you are watching Updates at Noon. From now on, the COVID-19 Quarantine and Treatment Centre at the Malaysia Agro Exposition Park Serdang MIPS will only receive illegal immigrants who are tested positive. Senior Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob said locals would no longer be placed there and those who had been in quarantine at the centre have been transferred to the Sungai Buloh Hospital since Sunday. Addressing the daily press conference on the Conditional Movement Control Order (CMCO) yesterday, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said security forces have begun installing barbed wire fencing around the area and increased their presence there.
Kita asingkan mereka daripada rakan-rakan mereka yang lain daripada depo tersebut. Ini untuk memastikan supaya tidak merebak menular COVID-19 di kalangan tahanan parti, tahanan depo yang lain, tahanan di dalam depo yang lain. Dan saya nak maklumkan, mungkin rakyat di luar sana agak bimbang bila mendengar peningkatan yang agak tinggi di kalangan parti tadi yang berada di depo. Rakyat tidak perlu bimbang kerana mereka sudah pun terkurung di dalam kawasan depo tersebut.
The senior minister added that thorough screenings had been and would continue to be conducted on all detainees, officers and people involved, including the food suppliers. Currently, 4,346 detainees are in the three depot, 1,654 in Semenyih, Bukit Jalil 1,334 and Sepang 1,358. In another development, Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said Malaysians abroad who intend to return home can download the Aku Janji Pledge Letter and the Indemnity Letter of Undertaking (LOU) from the Foreign Ministry and National Disaster Management Agency (NADMA) websites from yesterday. He also said that each applicant will have to email the document along with the LOU to their Malaysian diplomatic representative at least 3 days before the date of departure. Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri said the Health Ministry, Tourism, Arts and Culture Ministry, Transport Ministry and the Immigration Department will also upload the LOU on their respective websites.
Setiap permohonan perlu menghantar dokumen yang berkaitan bersama-sama dengan LOU itu melalui boleh dimuat turun daripada laman sesawang kementerian yang berkaitan. Jadi mereka tak perlu pergi sendiri. Mereka hanya perlu mengisi borang melalui online.
The senior minister added that the LOU is in line with the government decision to impose a 50% charge of the quarantine costs, which amounts to RM75 per day for those who return after 1st June. On another matter, Datuk Seri Ismail said the police will be investigating a wedding ceremony held at a temple in Serdang, Selangor, allegedly attended by hundreds of guests. The senior minister said the act was clearly against the Standard Operating Procedure SOP relaxation on places of worship for non-Muslims, which would only come into effect on 10th June.
Melanggar keputusan yang dibuat oleh mesyuarat khas menteri-menteri yang mana telah pun dipersetujui oleh Kementerian Perpaduan bersama dengan pemimpin-pemimpin agama. Diorang dah buat keputusan bersama. Kita bawa, kita endorse. Itu saja. Jadi, apa yang berlaku ini adalah melanggar undang-undang dan saya difahamkan pihak polis sedang mengambil tindakan kepada penganjur ini, termasuklah kepada mereka yang menghadiri majlis perkahwinan tersebut.
On Sunday, a viral video showed a temple in Serdang being flooded with almost 100 Hindus believed for a wedding ceremony, even though the government prohibits gatherings, including at temples, following the implementation of the Conditional Movement Control Order, CMCO. There's no issue of discrimination against children of frontline personnel, especially those of the Health Ministry staff when placing them in nurseries. Health Director General Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah said the Standard Operating Procedure SOP for nurseries, which was still at the proposal stage and had not been presented to the National Security Council MKN, was aimed at reducing the risk of COVID-19 infection. Elaborating further on the matter, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham said frontline personnel, especially those working in hospitals, were among the groups at risk of infection, and so were their family members.
Jadi apa yang kita menitik beratkan ialah risiko. Jadi risiko yang tinggi untuk mendapat jangkitan ada dua kumpulan. Iaitu pertama ialah keluarga yang berkaitan dengan kes yang positif. Mereka ada risiko yang tertinggi. Yang kedua, Barisan Hadapan Kementerian Kesihatan juga telah dikenal pasti sebagai satu kumpulan berisiko. Jadi mengikut garis panduan CDC di US ialah untuk taska dan sebagainya adalah kita perlu melihat kepada risiko tersebut, tetapi apa yang diperlu bukan kita diskriminasikan berarti ataupun kita sekat daripada kanak-kanak tu datang ke taska. Tidak, kita tak sekat, tetapi kita khaskan satu tempat untuk kanak-kanak yang barisan hadapan Kementerian Kesihatan.
The Health Director General also said that health workers were also reminded to adhere to safety measures when returning home, including cleaning up and practicing good personal hygiene before touching their children. He said the SOP for nursery will be finalized and presented to the National Security Council before being implemented. On another note, the Ministry of Health MOH has detected a new COVID-19 cluster at a construction site in Kuala Lumpur, where 44 cases were reported yesterday. Without giving further information about the cluster, Datuk Dr. Nur Hisham Abdullah urged construction companies to pay attention not only to the Standard Operating Procedure SOP for work sites, but also to workers' accommodations.
Jadi kalau kita lihat standard operating procedure di tapak pembinaan telah pun ada, tetapi mereka hanya melihat kepada tapak pembinaan tersebut ataupun kilang ataupun tempat kerja. Tetapi apa yang penting ialah kita kena lihat kepada penempatan mereka, iaitu rumah mereka macam mana, jadi cara mereka duduk. Mungkin kita dipahamkan, contohnya di Masjid India, satu apartmen yang kecil, 30 orang duduk satu apartmen. Jadi ruang yang sempit adalah satu faktor utama virus COVID-19 ini dapat berjangkit.
When asked whether Malaysia is ready to get involved with the vaccine research undertaken by Thailand, Dr. Nur Hisham said MOH is prepared to conduct joint research with other countries. According to him, a recent delegation from China had told the ministry that China was into phase 2 of its research and was expecting a report in November or December on whether the vaccine tests conducted on animals were successful before proceeding to phase 3 for trials on humans. Meanwhile, the Malaysian Medical Association MMA President Dr. N. Ganabhaskaran said extra preventive measures should be taken to stop the spread of COVID-19 among the workforce, especially foreign workers. He said more emphasis should be given to safe physical distancing, the wearing of face masks and personal hygiene among the workforce, with testing focused on foreign workers in line with the Health Ministry's targeted approach to testing. In a statement released, Dr. Ganabhaskaran said while testing for COVID-19 is important, more emphasis should be placed on preventing exposure to risks of infections. He said the majority of foreign workers in the country stay in overcrowded, cramped dormitories, construction site cabins, shop lot rooms, terrace houses or apartments where physical distancing and personal hygiene may be almost impossible to observe. The MMA president added that a standard operating procedure SOP alone for foreign worker accommodation may also be needed along with random checks by the authorities. He also noted that while testing of foreign workers will be necessary, steps must be taken to address the living conditions of foreign workers. Bukit Aman Traffic Investigation and Enforcement Department Director Dato' Aziz Man Alia said there were no attempts by highway users to make interstate travels on the second day of the Hari Raya Idul Fitri celebrations yesterday. He said most of the vehicle movements were within the same state and districts only and was under control. Elaborating further, Dato' Aziz Man said although there were no attempts to travel interstate, police have tightened all roadblocks. A media survey of the three main toll plazas in the capital, namely Sungai Besi Toll Plaza, Jalan Duta Toll Plaza and Gombak Toll Plaza, found the traffic flow at these locations to be smooth and not too busy, including where roadblocks had been set up. The survey also found that the authorities had set up roadblocks at the main entrances to Kuala Lumpur from the north and east coast, the toll plazas at Jalan Duta and Gombak. It is learned that police had set up the roadblocks this time to identify those who might have slipped through previous roadblocks. Separately, 48 people who suffered food poisoning believed from eating a local dessert which was bought on Friday in Terengganu have been treated as of noon yesterday. State Health Director Dr. Nur Azimi Yunus said out of the 48 victims, 20 were admitted to Sultanah Nur Zahira Hospital HSNZ in Kuala Terengganu, where one of them was warded in the intensive care unit ICU, but the patient was reported to be stable. Commenting further in a statement released yesterday, Dr. Nur Azimi said 4 other patients were admitted to private hospitals while the remaining victims received outpatient treatment. Most of the patients experienced symptoms such as stomach ache and diarrhea. Dr. Nur Azimi noted that the department is still investigating the actual source of the food poisoning incident as other patients may be exposed to the same risk. The State Health Director further noted that food must be eaten not more than 4 hours after it has been prepared, and if it is to be kept, it must be stored at the appropriate temperature and should be heated up to prevent food poisoning. She said the people should be sensitive to food safety and practice the concept of look, smell and feel before eating to avoid consuming food that has gone bad. Still to come in the foreign segment, protests in Ecuador against job wage cuts amidst COVID-19.
Everready is ready to use up to 4 years in storage.
Thank you, Daddy.
That's why life runs on Everready.
You're still with me, Renee Fong. Spanish health workers on the front line of the fight against COVID-19 gathered on Monday outside hospitals in the Madrid region to rally against shortages of protective equipment. Nurses, doctors and other workers protested in their uniforms, some in scrubs, under the slogan, "Health Workers Essential." They stood silently for 2 minutes at the gates of several institutions in and around the capital, holding placards and homemade signs. Sylvia Garcia, an intensive care unit nurse who joined hundreds of others outside the Gregorio Maranon Hospital, said the goal is for people to become aware of the precautiousness of the jobs. Caregivers say they are exhausted and complain both about staff shortages and lack of protective equipment to deal with the coronavirus outbreak. 1/3 of all Spain's cases and deaths have been recorded in the capital, where the health system was on the verge of breaking down at the height of the crisis. The protesters want the Madrid region to keep on the extra 10,000 staff hired to deal with the pandemic. Officials have only offered guarantees that they will be kept on until the end of the year. Spain's government on Monday also revised downward the country's death toll from the coronavirus by nearly 2,000, bringing the total number of deaths recorded to 26,834. A new system of gathering data had allowed them to identify cases that were continued twice and exclude deaths wrongly attributed to the virus. Demonstrators defied COVID-19 restrictions to march in cities across Ecuador on Monday in protest against President Lenin Moreno's drastic economic measures to tackle the crisis. Moreno last week announced public spending cuts, including the closure of state companies and embassies around the world. But trade unions Monday said workers were paying a disproportionate price compared to Ecuador's elite. Misia Satamues, head of the country's largest union, the Unitary Front of Workers, said the protest is because the government is firing workers to avoid making the rich pay. Around 2,000 people marched in the capital, waving flags and banners and shouting anti-government slogans. The protesters wore masks and respected distancing measures recommended against the spread of the coronavirus that has caused at least 3,200 deaths in the country, making it South America's worst-hit nation per capita. Authorities say more than 2,000 further deaths are likely linked to the virus. Demonstrations took place in several other cities, including Guayaquil, the epicenter of Ecuador's health crisis, where union leaders said hundreds marched through the city. Moreno ordered the closure of Ecuadorian embassies, a reduction in diplomatic staff, and scrapped 7 state companies as part of measures designed to save some $4 billion. He also announced the liquidation of the Tame airline, which has lost more than $400 million over the last 5 years. The government says the pandemic has so far cost the economy at least $8 billion. Public sector working hours have been cut by 25% with an accompanying 16% pay cut. Moreno said on Sunday that 150,000 people had lost their jobs because of the coronavirus. Meanwhile, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, in an exchange of Eid al-Fitr greetings with senior government officials, said Saudi Arabia will defeat the COVID-19 pandemic and that they are heading towards the good. The Crown Prince, who is also the kingdom's defense minister, was speaking during a video call with ministry staff and his deputy minister, Prince Khalid bin Salman. The kingdom celebrated the first 2 days of Eid under 24-hour lockdown to curb the spread of COVID-19. However, the health minister, Dr. Tawfiq Al-Rabia, said the restrictions will be based from Thursday. After almost 5 months, people have shown a high amount of responsibility in practicing social distancing. The lockdown will ease in phases beginning on Thursday and expanding based on reports of virus infections. The kingdom recorded 2,235 new cases of COVID-19 on Monday, taking the total to 74,795, and the death toll rose by 9 to 399. All non-essential retailers will be able to reopen in England from 15th June. Boris Johnson made this announcement as part of plans to further ease the lockdown. He, however, said the move is contingent on progress in the fight against COVID-19, and retailers will have to adhere to new guidelines to protect shoppers and workers. Outdoor markets and car showrooms will be able to reopen from 1st June. It comes as the number of COVID-19 deaths in the UK rose by 121 to 36,914. Johnson said new guidance had been published for the retail sector detailing the measures they should take to meet the necessary social distancing and hygiene standards. He also wants the people to be confident that they can shop safely, provided they follow the social distancing rules for all premises. Commenting on the Development Business Secretary Alok Sharma said enabling these businesses to open will be a critical step on the road to rebuilding the economy and will support millions of jobs across the UK. The British Retail Consortium says it welcomes the announcement, adding it provided much needed clarity on the route ahead. A spokesman for the Confederation of British Industry added that the new guidance would help retailers to open safely and securely. In the meantime, Iceland's dance floors once again pulsed to the beat as the country's nightclubs reopened on Monday after a 9-week closure due to the coronavirus pandemic. A trendy high-end club in central Reykjavik, groups of friends huddled together on sofas, laughing and chatting above the din of the music, though the dance floor remained empty for much of the evening. One of the bartenders, a French-Icelandic 22-year-old student named Nicolas, said he was not particularly worried about COVID-19, noting his life had returned to normal since Iceland began easing restrictions earlier this month. Partygoers were meanwhile delighted to be out clubbing again. Regulars mixed with newcomers when the club opened its doors at 5 p.m, first welcoming just a handful of guests before filling up as the evening wore on. Only 160 people were allowed inside B5 under new nightclub regulations, which allow up to 200 people, but no social distancing rules were enforced.
Assalamualaikum dan salam sejahtera. Saya Saifuddin Abdullah mewakili keluarga besar Kementerian Komunikasi dan Multimedia ingin mengucapkan selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, maaf zahir dan batin buat seluruh rakyat Malaysia. Hari ini kita sedang berperang dengan wabak COVID-19. Namun, kita masih juga merayakan hari yang mulia ini tetapi dengan cara ataupun dengan norma baharu. Kita merayakannya dengan gembira dan setinggi kesyukuran bersama-sama dengan keluarga kita di rumah. Untuk kita berhasil memerangi COVID-19, sama-samalah kita menjaga kesihatan, selalu basuh tangan, kita menjarakkan sosial antara satu dengan yang lain. Pada waktu yang sama, kita mengucapkan setinggi-tinggi terima kasih kepada semua petugas, terutamanya frontliners dalam peperangan ini. Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri, maaf zahir dan batin.
Liverpool Atletico match linked to 41 additional COVID-19 deaths. The decision to let Liverpool's Champions League match against Atletico Madrid go ahead may have led to 41 additional deaths due to the COVID-19. Jurgen Klopp's side faced the Spanish club in a second leg last 16 tie at Anfield on 11th March in front of a crowd of some 52,000 with 3,000 visiting supporters in attendance. The match was the last major football fixture played in England before the coronavirus lockdown. According to the Sunday Times, Edge Health, which analyses data for Britain's National Health Service, estimated the match was linked to 41 additional deaths at nearby hospitals between 25 and 35 days later, compared with similar hospital trusts that were used as a control. Imperial College London and Oxford University have estimated Spain had around 640,000 positive COVID-19 cases at the time that the match went ahead, compared to 100,000 Britain at that stage. Last month, one of the mayors for Liverpool called for an investigation into why the Atletico match was allowed to proceed as scheduled. Atletico won the game 3-2 after extra time to knock out the defending champions 4-2 in aggregate and reach the quarterfinals. La Liga President Javier Tebas said he hopes the resumed season will start on 11th June with the Seville Derby. He said it would be their hope to have a single league game that day so that the teams play exclusively for all of Spain, almost as a tribute and to what has happened. Tebas confirmed that in the next few days there will be an official announcement concerning the restart date of the championship, which was shelved in March because of the COVID-19. On Saturday, Spain's Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez announced that La Liga could resume from its lockdown in the week beginning 8th June. All matches will be behind closed doors. More than 2 months after the COVID-19 pandemic halted the season in Spain, players have begun training in small groups. Barcelona sit top of the table with 2 points ahead of Real Madrid. Clubs have 11 games left to play to finish the season, with the proposed final round to be completed by the end of July. Despite the optimism for a season restart, Tebas insisted that fans should still be wary of the dangers posed by the pandemic. A compressed calendar would mean teams playing matches both in midweek and at weekends. Players will also undergo tests for COVID-19 the day before games and will have their temperatures taken before being allowed to enter stadiums. While COVID-19 has indefinitely postponed the Chinese Super League CSL season, but it has given the national team time to bond under coach Li Ti. China are approaching the end of a 2-week training camp in Shanghai, and on Tuesday will face CSL side Shanghai Shenhua behind closed doors, having defeated former champion Shanghai SIPG 4-1 in another warm-up match. The CSL is on hold because of the COVID-19 pandemic, but the national side have been together on and off for several weeks this year, both at home and abroad. China's World Cup hopes hang in the balance. They are second in their qualifying group, with only the top team guaranteed to reach the next stage on the road to Qatar 2022. China's next qualifier against the Maldives had been postponed because of the pandemic but could now take place this autumn. The players emerged from their team bus wearing face masks on Monday before former Everton midfielder Lee put them through their paces in humid conditions minus masks. Lee, who took over from Marcelo Lippi when the Italian World Cup winning coach quit following defeat to Syria in November, has made clear that the friendlies against SIPG and Shenhua are essential to their preparations. China hopes they can boost a team that has reached the World Cup only once in 2002 and sits 76 in the FIFA rankings, sandwiched between Bolivia and Uganda. In tennis, world number 7 Alexander Zverev will join Novak Djokovic's Balkan tournament next month, boosting the cast of top players to the centre on Belgrade as the professional season is frozen by the coronavirus. The German will join world number 3 Dominic Thiem and Grigor Dimitrov, ranked 19, in Belgrade on 13th to 14th June for the first stop of the Adria Tour. Whether spectators will be allowed remains uncertain. Speaking at a press conference in the Serbian capital, Djokovic also hoped that some rules will be changed by 13th June. The Adria Tour, which Djokovic announced on his 33rd birthday last week, will run from 13th June to 5th July in Serbia, Croatia, Montenegro and Bosnia on clay courts. The money raised from the tour will be donated to various charities. Asked about his own shape, Djokovic said he had been training throughout his period of confinement in Spain, where he was staying with his family in a home in Marbella. The ATP and WTA tours have been suspended since March and will not resume until at least the end of July, while Roland Garros was postponed to September and Wimbledon was cancelled for the first time since World War II. And that's it from us this afternoon. In our top story, only immigrants who tested positive for COVID-19 will be quarantined at MAPS. News on 2 comes on at 7 this evening for more global updates. Till then, I'm Renee Fong. Thanks for watching and have a pleasant afternoon.